appropriate. And we'll definitely be catching up with you. Okay, so moving on, we have Rob with us. I'm going to introduce Rob very briefly, as founder and chief positive deviant at Tailored Thinking. And Rob's been doing quite a lot recently. There's a book that's been published in 2020. There have been TEDx talks, and I think, and you'll confirm that, but I think you were voted HR Business of the Year in 2020. So, you know, quite a lot's been happening. It sounds like the pandemic's been a productive moment for you. So I'll hand over to you, and I'm sure if we have questions afterwards, we'll be able to ask them.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa, and thanks everyone for your time and attention. I appreciate this is an investment in everyone's time today in terms of logging onto these sessions and the discussion, and I just in advance to say thank you for your time and attention today. In return for that, I just want to do everything I can to make this session as practical as I can. So my focus today is going to be exploring job crafting, but it's going to be giving you some tangible tools, hopefully, that you can go away and experiment and explore with. We've got half an hour together today. I will be coming to some of the networking sessions, particularly tomorrow, so I will be around then. But you'll have my contact details, so just drop me an email as well, or follow up with me if you've got any specific questions. But we'll try and take some questions as we're going today as well. So please just put those in the chat. And if Lucy, if you don't mind, just trying to pick up on those. People can heckle me as well, so I'm also always happy for people to come off mic and just shout at me if they want to and ask a question. So happy to do that as well. We'll make the sessions as responsive as I possibly can for you all. So I'm going to share with you some slides. We're going to do an activity, a whiteboard activity. Not going to be exciting as the Deck Hub, the Deck Hive work, but we'll do a little bit of an exercise together to show you how I bring some of these ideas to life within organizations. You'll get copies of all these slides. Just to mention that you've got all my contact details in there. I've put lots of references and resources in the packs for you, and for you to go and look at. But again, just say hello if you've got a particular question about this stuff. Lucy mentioned that I'm the founder of Tailored Thinking. So Tailored Thinking, positive psychology and wellbeing consultancy. And yes, we were delighted as a young company to be named Consultancy of the Year. And in part, and I'll touch on this today in today's session, in part of that submission process, or the application process, they had to have submissions from case studies from different organizations. And one of the ones that was centered to that was a job crafting project that I completed with Connect Health. And I'll talk you through a little bit about how we approached job crafting, because it was a different and a distinctive approach, something that I was really proud of and had a big impact. So I can share with you some ideas about the work we did with Connect. I think you said enough about hello, other than to say I'm speaking to you from Durham in the northeast today. And my next door neighbour, I'm in an office 2 floors up, but someone's doing some work on a car, I think, or something that you might hear at some point in the background. So apologies in advance if you see that. Again, with all this resources, if you want a deeper dive into job crafting, if you want to know more, then my book is my best attempt to share all the knowledge and ideas that I could get from experts around the world, and my own experiences about how to bring job crafting to life. So just a starting point, and I often share this with groups if I'm introducing job crafting, is you start with Google. So Google is the source of all knowledge when it comes to information. And if I was to, I'll just share with you my screen, and I still can't help but tell everyone exactly what I'm doing when I'm doing it through Zoom. So you can see my Google screen now. So if I was to Google my job is, at the moment, these are the results that you'll see. So my job is making me ill, it's too stressful, physically demanding, killing me, so boring, and making me miserable, giving me anxiety. So I think those of us in the field of positive psychology feel that we've got some work to do here, working with organizations. You can have fun as well with this if you type my manager is as well, and not, again, necessarily good reading in terms of search results and hits here. And I'm really fascinated about why that is. Why do organizations feel that actually we're not creating work that allows people to thrive. And in fact, many people feel that they're kind of struggling or disengaged with the work that they're doing. And I think kind of part of the reason is that the way we design jobs and the way we design structures hasn't changed for hundreds of years. So on the chat, someone could maybe just shout out, when do you think this job description or job chart or Gantt chart, when does it date back to? So if someone could just put in the chat for me as a guess of when you think this relates to, because this will, so what do people think? 1911, thanks Martin. 1973. We'll get a couple more. 1950, thanks Adil, Charlie. Yeah, so early 90s, yeah, so like Martin, thanks. So hedging your bets there. You've got a broader spread, I saw. So yes, you're right. For those of you who are guessing towards the 1900s, so it's in 1917, actually, I can track this back down to. I haven't done any more digging about what the tabulating machine company does. It'll be interesting. But you'll recognize the kind of structure of this top-down kind of organ chart. It'd look almost the same in most organizations today if it was put on PowerPoint and made to look a bit shinier. Very much at the heart of organizations, the heart of many people's thinking is that decisions may go top down and we put people in defined job roles to do. But there's a cost to that. So I think that by doing this, by working this way, we tend to put people into boxes. So we talk about, some of you will have heard of glass ceilings, and this means that certain people can't progress. There's a hidden ceiling that stops people from progressing in their jobs, and particularly people from kind of certain ethnic backgrounds or from a particular gender, so females in the past, particularly for leadership positions, people have said they've got this glass ceiling. But I think jobs have glass walls as well. And actually what we do without realizing it when we're designing jobs or giving jobs to people, we give people lots of things to do and no scope or no opportunities to shape and change them. As a consequence, we box people in, we squash out any innovation, we squash out motivation and engagement. And the cost of that is that people don't feel as fully motivated and healthy and happy in their jobs, which makes sense, right? So if you're boxed in, you feel that there's kind of your opportunities are limited, then you're not going to be as engaged as you could be. So I'm really interested about other ways of kind of breaking through these glass walls effectively. And I think one way to do that is job crafting. And so for those of you, hopefully many of you on the call will have been familiar with job crafting. I'm not going to do a job crafting kind of 101 too much today. So the resources will be a good starting point. But just a kind of a brief overview of job crafting. So it's making small changes to our jobs to bring out our strengths, our passions, our experiences. So people tend to do this by customizing or making small changes to their jobs and how they act. So in terms of, it might be the tasks they do, changing them ever so slightly, or doing more tasks or things that they enjoy doing less tasks or things they don't enjoy doing, improving certain tasks. It could be changing how we interact with other people. So this is around relationships and how we engage with our colleagues, our customers, amplifying those or reducing those in some ways, or potentially thinking about, people can craft their jobs by thinking about how they think about their jobs. So this is around actually connecting to the wider purpose and meaning of the work that we do. And I think that last point in particular is something that's underestimated, undervalued within organizations, creating time and space and opportunities for people to really understand and connect with the purpose and value of their job. When I introduce job crafting, and again, I'm sharing with you ideas about how you might want to introduce this to organizations, your clients, if you're not already doing this, is that I often get them to think about job crafting like a semi-tailored suit. So the picture on the left-hand side is a picture I took from a suit jacket from a clothes shop. And this is the badge is saying, tailor me to make me more you. So with this jacket, the jacket, actually the color is fixed, the fabric's fixed, the overall style is pretty fixed. But what you can do is you can make small adjustments to it to make it a better, more comfortable fit to you as an individual. It reflects your individual dimensions. It's a more comfortable, more personal fit. And the same applies to job crafting. You can bring this semi-tailored approach to our jobs. You're not redesigning a job. So you're not starting a job from scratch. What you are doing is encouraging people to tailor their job, to make small changes, to make it a better, more comfortable fit, a better reflection of them as individuals. On the right hand side of the screen, this is a model of job crafting that I kind of pulled together based on all the research and my experiences in the field. So the middle of it is the green bit, is the why of job crafting. So this is kind of why job crafting matters, and it's linked to thriving, growth and performance. The kind of the outer layer, and we've talked about some of these already, is how the kind of, not the how, but the what of job crafting. So what does job crafting look like? And I find that people tend to do it in 5 ways. So it's around their tasks, looking at their skills, their purpose, their relationships, or their well-being, trying to make their job healthier from a mental or physical perspective. And the last layer of this kind of model is around the how. And the how, and this is what we're going to talk about today in more detail, is around actually getting people to reflect on how they do their job, who they interact with, what do they do, how well do they do it, where do they do it, why do they do it, reflecting on these questions and inviting people to take action as a consequence of their thoughts and reflections. To have small, and the way that I introduce it and share is around small experiments to make your job better. And I use the word kind of experiment deliberately because with job crafting, you don't always know what's going to come out of it. So you might decide to say, actually, I'm going to change the way that I run my one-to-one connections with colleagues, because actually I want to connect better with my colleagues at the moment. The way that I currently do them, we're not getting a sense of connection. So I'm going to have walking meetings if we do it in person. So I might say, right, we're going to go outside and have a walking one-to-one chat, because it's going to get a better quality of conversation. You don't know if that's going to work or not when you start with, but it's a form of job crafting. And what I encourage people to do is think about that as an experiment, to saying, actually, let's just see whether this works for me, whether it works for the person that I'm doing this kind of job crafting experiment with, just to have a better result with people. Most organizations don't have job crafting on their list of things to do. If they did, my life would be a lot easier as a consultant, I can promise you that. But what they do for many organizations, from an HR perspective or an organizational perspective, are focused on well-being, flexible work and performance, diversity and inclusion, change and employee experience. And all these factors are ones that job crafting has an opportunity to positively influence in some way. So, for example, a lot of organizations are looking at hybrid working at the moment and doing work differently. And in a sense, that's a form of job crafting. So being aware of job crafting, encouraging people to craft their jobs, could be a way of actually organizations embracing and maximizing opportunities to work flexibly or to work in a hybrid way. So what are we going to do? So I'm going to spend about 10-12 minutes now talking about some activities about how you might do this, how you might bring job crafting to life. And I've already mentioned this experimental mindset. I think this is critical and key to people. Try and approach job crafting in a playful way, or encourage your people you're working with to approach it as a playful way. Something that actually they are interested and engaged doing. Make changes that they want to make rather than those that they feel that they have to, because they're more likely to do it, they're more likely to be sustainable, and they're more likely to show beneficial outcomes. So I'll just share with you 4 ideas today. I've got lots, but today we'll start with 4 kind of activities that you can do either in groups or in kind of one-to-one discussions. So the first is just crafting reflection. So if I was to run a workshop with individuals and groups, one activity I might do is just to get people to stop and say, okay, you've heard about job crafting, you've learned about this as an approach and the benefits of it. What I'd like you to do now, and you can either do this physically or you could do this as a whiteboard activity, works well as well. It's just saying to you, in your existing job, what are the things would you like to add to promote? So what are the things you'd like to grow effectively? What are the things ideally in terms of your job would you like to reduce and take away? What are the things, elements of your job you think you can improve and adapt? So is it the way actually the meetings work at the moment? They take up a lot of time and they're not always very helpful. So maybe you could change that within how you run meetings. What are the things that you want to absolutely keep, maintain and persist with, the things that you want to do? And that could be saying you're carving out time for personal development, 2 hours, or deep thinking on a Wednesday morning between 8 and 10. You don't do anything else other than deep thinking or deep work on a particular area, saying that's really working, you're going to keep doing that. And what are the things you're going to stop, pause or resist doing? And it could be saying, right, for a period of a month or 2, I'm going to not volunteer for any new projects because it's taking, my plate's too big at the moment, I'm feeling a bit stressed in a negative way, so this is something I'm going to do. So just simply getting people to reflect on their current job, go through those different activities, And people can do this for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. It's a nice exercise. It can scale. And then having done that exercise, I ask people to pick one thing that they're going to make a change. And again, the reason you do one is the fact that if people pick lots, the chances are not everyone, they won't be able to do them in a sustainable way. And I simply ask people to think about what are they going to do, when are they going to do it, and why. And those three things help people create a plan and have an element of engagement in terms of what they're doing. And I find that simple approach can work really well. So that's exercise number one. Exercise number two, and we're going to have some audience participation in this one. You'll be excited to know. So look out for your chat. This is called the love and loathe exercise. And I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to share with you a link to a Miro whiteboard, which I will share with you. And if people haven't used Miro before, this is something that I'm increasingly using with my client and client groups, and I've used a lot more in the last 12 months during the pandemic. So if you look out from your chat now, you should have winging its way to you a link. But don't click on it. Well, you can click on it, but don't actually go into it just yet, because keep looking at the screen. I'll just explain the exercise to you. So the love and loathe is simply a way of saying, thinking about your tasks and activities you do. Maybe to start with, I get people to list 10 things and then to plot them on this graph about the things that they drain them of energy and the things that give them energy and how much time they spend doing them. So for this activity, I'm going to invite everyone on the call to just put 2 things on there, so those can get too busy. And the way to create a sticky note is to go to the left-hand side of the screen. If you follow my mark on Zoom, to get a sticky note, you can choose your color. And I might put on here something that drains my energy is expenses. And luckily I don't spend forever doing that. So I'm going to say it's quite a drainer for me, but I probably spend that much, it's about there in terms of my time and energy. And something that gives me energy is around check-ins with clients. I love doing check-ins with clients. And so that's something that I'm going to put there. So what I'd invite you now to do, for those of you who joined, and if you can't see it, don't worry, you can just see my screen, just kind of add some post-it notes on this board about 2 activities that you do and plot them on whether they give you energy or drain energy. So, and some people are doing this already. I'll make this maybe slightly bigger. Oh, that's too big. I'll keep it on this size. I can see someone putting research up there already. That's something, again, I could probably spend my forever doing kind of research on different areas and topics if they're interesting to me. Interestingly, when I was writing the book, when I was forced to do research, it took some of the fun away from it. So for me, research for more spontaneously is something that I enjoy. Conducting interviews, yeah, I can see that. For someone saying one-to-ones, so we're cooking on gas now. Everyone's adding them. And it's quite easy. And again, you can just get a sense of this is an activity that's quite easy. It's quite accessible. It took me maybe 3 minutes to set up with you. And it gets quite a lot of rich feedback from people. The one thing, again, another kind of twist on this that I find really works really well is doing this as a team. So as a team, you can get everyone to put all their kind of post-it notes up there. And what you might find is that some people within the team love doing some things that other people hate, and vice versa. So I was in a session recently and someone was saying, I love doing stuff on Excel. I just think it's brilliant. And there was someone else saying, anything to do with Excel, you might as well give me a shotgun because I hate it. Like, it's horrible. And it's like, well, if we know this, why don't we ensure that when we're allocating work, we're giving it to the people who love this kind of stuff, who are probably their strengths, it links into their strength in some way, rather than giving, being fair and giving the same work to everyone. I think often when we think of fairness, we give everyone the same chunk of work to do, when actually there'll be benefits for everyone in terms of being a bit more deliberate in terms of how we allocate that work. This looks awesome, guys. So thanks so much for this. Social media, someone was saying that as a thing. I can share that sometimes. Minute meetings, yeah, that's certainly something I can kind of recognize. technology not working. I could just spend all day with you on this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Keep playing if you want to in the background, that's fine, but I'm going to keep talking at you. So that's a love and loathe exercise. And then if you're looking at it specifically for job crafting, so you want to kind of take the next action, you want to be focusing on the areas particularly that you spend a lot of time doing that drain energy, and maybe the things you don't spend much time that give you energy, and saying, actually, what is it about those tasks that you enjoy or don't enjoy? Can you change them in any way? Can you reallocate them between you? Are there ways that you can kind of tap into those things in new ways within your work? So it can work from a coaching framework as well. So that's the love and loathe. The next activity, or the tool that I use, is called a job canvas. So you'll be, at the start I mentioned that we put people in boxes, and one of the reasons for this, I think, is that people, if you ask them what they do, they'll just think about the tasks and activities without actually understanding, getting into the DNA, the nooks and crannies of the work that they do. And often when it comes to job crafting, if you want people to make a change, you really need people to kind of actually spend some time understanding and thinking about how they do their job. So one way I find to get people to really kind of get out of their heads what their job is to lay it out on this canvas. So people, at the heart of this is their value. So you start at the heart generally in terms of the value. So why does your job exist? Why is that important? And on the right hand side of this, it's around what are the outcomes of the job, or the outward elements of this. So what are the service standards you're operating to? How do you engage with people? Who are your key customers? And on the left-hand side are your key activities, your resources, your people partners, your strengths and skills. And on the bottom right is around your key deliverables and KPIs. And you find that when people kind of do this, they really have kind of light bulb moments about actually how they do their job. And interestingly, if you share this with a manager, so again, as a coaching tool for those who are interested in coaching in this session, it can be really helpful to actually allow people to kind of actually share with them how they see their job relative to actually, so it's actually how they get to the DNA of the job rather than just being a list of tasks and activities. And just to share with you out of interest for kind of how I've again iterated this further from a digital perspective, is that there is, I've got a digital canvas that people can create and update that creates PDFs for people. So here, the core value element of supporting, why is my job, how does my job provide core value to the organization? I support organizations to thrive. And another thing is I share ideas and stories. Could be something I put in. So you can update that and move this around. So again, if to different categories. So again, if people are interested in different approaches from an organizational perspective, I can share with people how to access this tool if they're interested in that. And then as I'm going through, this is an example, and I won't go into detail, you've got this in the slides to look at in terms of how someone actually has done this as a software developer. So a lot of organizations that are potentially more agile, fast moving, this is particularly something that they valued. And again, this project manager was saying it's really super easy. It took them 20 minutes to complete this, whereas if they were asked to do a job description, they'd have to kind of maybe put an hour or two aside to kind of actually really go through that in detail. So that's the canvas. And I've already shared with you the kind of digital link to it. So this, I mentioned about the award that I was fortunate enough to get through the CIPD, and this was through a project with Connect Health. So Connect Health, they were interested in job crafting. We ran job crafting workshops where I introduced people to job crafting. We set a job crafting goal using some of the activities that I've already mentioned to you. But they were looking about how can they embed this with an organization. They didn't want to just run workshops for everyone, because as we know, probably for those of you who've done this on these calls, when you run workshops, they don't always necessarily lead to sustainable change within organizations. So one of the ways that they thought they could do something different, and this was through collaboration, was saying actually maybe they can redesign their check-in processes. So every quarter they would have a check-in. And what we did with Connect Health is we designed a framework for a conversation, kind of a crafting conversation, we called it, every quarter about their job. So this is something they did, an individual did with their manager, and it, for example, here is around energy. So what are the activities that give you the most energy and drain you at work? What do you enjoy doing the most? List 2 activities that you drain you. And people had this in advance. So some people felt super comfortable just doing it in the moment with their manager, and some people wanted to prepare and think about it. But this was, again, lots of prompts to have a rich conversation with their manager about their job. We weren't really worried too much about sticking slavishly to the script. We were more interested in creating the environment for people to have a rich conversation. But these were tremendously successful within the organization. And one of the biggest outcomes was there was a 23% increase within that organization saying Connect Health cares about me and cares about me and cares about my career, went up within the job crafting intervention before and after. And I think a lot of it's just down to this very simple intervention. So I'm coming up to my time for some questions. And just to say again, in terms of the resources of these that might be really helpful is the job crafting guide, and the link to this is down below. You can check out, as Lucy mentioned, my TEDx talk, and happy to share experiences of that. If people haven't done that or thinking of doing it, I'd be very happy to share. I found it completely terrifying, but really rewarding, as most things are. But I'd be really happy to help anyone in any way if they're interested in doing that. And if we do this together, we get to break the Google algorithm. So we say, my job is awesome. My job is tailored to my strengths. My job is continually changing and is designed to allow me to do my best. So let's break the Google algorithm together.
That's great, Rob. Thank you so much.